How long will the webinar take? That's a great question, Ricardo. I'm hoping an hour. That's our goal, but maybe an hour and a couple minutes or something like that. Hey, I want to thank everyone for signing in today, our first Mr. Excel webinar. I'm Bill Jelen from Mr. Excel. I suppose you know that if you're here, right? We are going to have a blast today going through a lot of different Excel topics. My new book just came out, Mr. Excel 2024. A lot of you probably have earlier versions of this. This started out as Mr. Excel XL, and then LIV and LX, and I don't know. This is like the 7th edition, and it's great. Every time I update it, like this time, I think there were, I don't know, like 30 or 40 new pages of stuff that the Excel team had given us, which is just awesome, right? So right now, my plan is we're gonna hit all of these items on the list. Picture in cells and lookup picture. A great new thing from Excel Labs to simplify a system of formulas. Some great pivot table improvements, and then, just to drive me nuts, we're going to spin a wheel, and I'm going to have to choose the topic that the spin the wheel comes up in. There's 22 topics, and I'm really comfortable with 21 of them. So we'll see if I get the one that will just flummox me. Copilot in Excel, that great new thing. We just spent last week at the MVP Summit, and Microsoft is just all in on artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence to create a pivot table and a sneak peek of the brand new Bill-GPT. You can ask me a question. And hopefully I will not make shit up like Chat-GPT does. Oh, am I allowed to say that? All right. Excel Labs to call OpenAI from Excel. Pivot table on a map. The great new group by and pivot by functions. And then, if time allows, you see hidden here between row and 15 and row 32. Like I have a whole nother hour of stuff I could go through in case this would happen to go fast. It won't go that fast. All right. So first off, let's just over in the chat. We got a quick question for everyone, just to judge where we are. So the question is, what version of Excel are you using? Is it A, Microsoft 365 Insiders Beta, which of course is where I live and breathe because I have to see the latest and greatest. Microsoft 365 Insiders Monthly, that's B. C is you're on Microsoft 365, either the monthly plan or the semi-annual. I know a lot of IT departments go on that semi-annual. It drives me nuts. D, Office 2019 or Office 2021, or E, you're back in Excel 2013, 2016, or even further back than that. So go ahead and leave that answer in chat. Some of these things that I show you today are brand new and they're still in beta. And it will kind of, it's one of those things that if you're not in beta, but you have Microsoft 365 monthly, you'll be seeing it soon, like maybe by July. If you're on the semi-annual channel, some of these things might be the kind of things that show up in January. All right. And for those of you who need CPE credit for your accounting license or something like that, here's how we're going to do it. There'll be 4 instances in the webinar where we show a number, nice little two-digit number on the screen. You just got to jot those down. We need you to put 3 or 4 of those in a web page when we're done. Your name, first name, last name, email address, and the answer to those numbers. You get 3 of the 4 correct, I'll send you a 1-hour CPE credit signed by me. Not that that's worth anything. You're not going to be able to sell it on eBay or anything like that. Although it's great. Who said that they had a engraved iPod that they won back in 2008? Was that Robert? I forgot about giving that iPod away. That was back in the days when we actually gave good stuff away. The other thing that happens every time I do this seminar, I know I have a really smart audience out there. And if you see me do something in Excel and there's a faster, better, cooler way to do that, by all means, put it in the chat. It happens every single time. I'll get you one of my Mr. Excel guru patches for anything that you put out there in the chat that I've never seen before. Okay, so I think that's good. Let's get started here. And I'm starting off with the topic. This is page 64 in the book. This book, Mr. Excel 2024. By the way, that's my 68th book. 68th book. It's kind of crazy. Mike Alexander just we were presenting together once, and Mike said, "Yeah, that's just because you know how to copy and paste." Well, it's true. The 68th book is a lot like the 64th book with 30 pages of new stuff added in. All right, so I'm going to start off with 2 features that they gave us. First, picture in cells, which allows us to do a lookup picture and picture in a pivot table. Some really cool things. And I love the way that this came out to us. It came out first as the image function, And I have 2 different screen zooms here. I'm going to leave it zoomed in right now. I realize you can't see the bottom of the screen, but that's okay for right now. What they gave us is this great new image function. And the way that the image function worked is you had to have an image that was out on the internet somewhere. All right. So I downloaded this from my YouTube channel, a bunch of YouTube videos I have out there, and a little thumbnail URL. All right. And this formula, I'm passing it 2 arguments. The source, that's from column G, that's the actual URL to the image. And then in column B, the alt text. All right. Now, alt text, that's there for people who have vision problems and are using a screen reader. And it's always nice to put alt text in. But there's actually a lot of huge benefits, even if you're never going to use a screen reader, to having alt text. And I'm going to show you those as we go through here. All right. So that's a formula. That formula lives in that cell. If I would make the cell taller, the picture is going to get larger. If I make the column wider, the picture gets larger, right? So it's kind of cool. And watch, when I double click to copy that formula down, we got that little spinny circle there for a second, but then it goes out and downloads this. And this is just 30 videos, right? I actually have a spreadsheet with 2,500 videos. And yeah, when I double clicked, it probably like is go get a cup of coffee and come back 5 minutes later. But it downloaded all the data. It was just absolutely amazing. Now you're like, oh, what are we going to do with these small images? I get that. One thing you can do with those small images is you can right click and under, oh, no, you can't do that here. Picture in cell, we can say create a reference, which creates this larger image like that. It's actually like inserting an image over the cells. So they gave us that. But what I like to do, so I have a couple of spreadsheets back here where I've actually made this cell E10, really wide, really tall. And I have a slicer that I can go through and choose from the slicer. And the formula there is a cool little formula using the index function of all the images. And then it chooses whatever's in Z5. And Z5 corresponds to what I'm using in the slicer here. So, you know, a great way to display it on a dashboard, maybe. Lots of cool uses for that. Or here, oh, this is great. See, this is one of those bonus tips. It's not on the list that we were going to cover this, but the brand new WRAPROWS function. So we have data in F4 to F29. That's where all those images are. And I say that I want to wrap it into 4 columns. It's kind of weird. In WRAPROWS, you tell it how many columns you want. And down here, you see these 2 blanks. Excel would love to put NA error there. So the pad width out here, the third argument, that quote, will make sure that you don't get the NA error there at the bottom. And here, let's just try it. Let's try and do it into 3, and we'll leave off the NA error just so we can see. So it rewraps it, and then down here I have the little NA error because it wasn't evenly divisible by 3. Let's undo that. Control Z to undo. All right, now here's the huge advantage of using the alt text. All right, if we didn't use the alt text, all of these would just have a value here of just picture. But because we have alt text specified in this, when I go to the filter and open the filter now, check this out. The alt text appears in the filter dropdown. So I can actually search for everything. Maybe they have the word pivot. Yes, look at that. So filtering the pictures now based on the alt text, that is a huge benefit. You know, I'm always on the latest version of Excel, right? Including the beta. So the beta came out and we were a little disappointed with this, and I have an ace in the hole. I'm good friends with someone on the Excel team who handles accessibility. You know, a few years ago I went through and in my books added alt text to all the images, and you know, so I'm good friends with the accessibility people. And I went to her and I said, you know, this is really bad. You need to give us a way to have alt text, right? And it wasn't instant. It took a month, but they came back and gave us alt text. And now because of that alt text, it's just wonderful the way that we can filter on the pictures and things like that. Height and width, very interesting. Sizing, height, and width. These 3 arguments out here are things that I don't generally use. In the book, I do have descriptions of what happens if you change that to 0, which is fit cell, fill cell, original size, which is way too big for that. Use specified height, use specified width, or use height and width. So you can really screw it up if you change the height and width. So it's a deep subject. I have a friend who I've done work for going back to like 2003. And when he called me, the very first thing he called me for in 2003 was, hey, I have a chain of retail stores. I just want to show the top 10 handbags in Excel. And I'm like, hey, no, Excel's not for pictures. He's like, oh, I got this book from John Walkenbach. And of course, I had the same book from John Walkenbach. And on page 694, he shows how to do it. Okay, yeah, I guess you could do pictures. But what Jerry was looking for back in 2003 is exactly what finally just came to Excel in 2023. So I reached out to Jerry that day. And I said, Jerry, you're so far ahead of your time. They finally did what what you asked for so long ago. Okay, but in Jerry's case and in my case, my images aren't always on the web. Sometimes, think about it. We have images that are on your local network or something like that. You have a list of products, and if you have product 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's probably a network share somewhere that says QI12345.ping is the product image, and so it'd be easy for you to display things from your local network. And this function, unfortunately, cannot do that, right? And we just went to Microsoft and said, geez, we really need a way to be able to display local pictures, all right? And when it came out, they gave us a way to display local pictures, but I wasn't entirely happy with the way it worked, all right? And here's how you can tell if you have this or not. So on the Insert tab back here, we have our Insert Pictures, and let's see, how's that looking here? Let's get the, there we are. So Insert tab, Insert Pictures, we have Place in Cell and Place Over Cells, right? Place Over Cells is what we've had for the last 30 years. You put a picture in, it's sitting on top of the cells. You can't actually click behind the picture, and you have to scoot in from the side and all of that. But they gave us this new thing called Place in Cell. And in my case, I'm going to use Place in Cell and say from this device, and it brings me out to my Pictures folder. And I'm just going to choose several pictures here, holding down the Control key. So I'm choosing 6 pictures. And what it does is it inserts those pictures in 6 consecutive cells. All right. And currently, if I choose any of these cells, you see up here in the formula bar that it just calls it picture. Right. And to make this so much better, you're just going to have to bite the bullet and come here to one of these and right click and go to View Alt Text. Let's get the whole screen there so you can see it out on the far right hand side. The alt text pane appears, and this is Mr. Excel 2024. And I would just add the title of the book out there. Now, I only have 6 books, and I'm not going to do them all right now, so it's not the end of the world. But if you would take the time to add the alt text in for each of these images that you can see, then life just becomes so much better. All right, now watch what we can do with these images that are inserted in the cell. First thing, we can actually return an image as part of an XLOOKUP. So here's my lookup table. I have an answer of maybe, no, and yes, and 3 pictures. The yellow is maybe, the red is no, the green is yes. And check out this awesome formula here. So in XLOOKUP, if the actual is greater than the goal, then we want to display yes. If it's exactly equal to the goal, then maybe. What are the odds of that? And if you didn't make the goal, then no. All right. So I'm looking up here. What are we going to get? We're going to get from this ifs. I'm going to hover, and we see that evaluated to no. So it's going to go look for the word no in our lookup table. That's in row 5. And I ask for the corresponding picture from column B, and check it out. It brings it back. And so here, if we would say this Andy's goal was 1,500. If we change Andy's goal to 1,300, watch how that no changes to a yes. It's just wild how cool that is. So we're now returning a picture as part of an XLOOKUP. Again, great for dashboards or something like that. All right. And shout out to Layla. Layla, I'm sure if you've ever watched an Excel video on YouTube, you've watched Layla's channel. She has just a great channel and a huge following. Layla did this on her channel, and this one blew me away. So I have my little slicer here, and that's going to change the image that we select, right? So that's great. I get the image, but wouldn't it be nice if from the image, I could go get the title and maybe the author? So here's my lookup table. My lookup table has image in column A, not column A, in the first column, and then the title, and then the author. And check this out. I'm going to do it equal XLOOKUP. Go look up the image. Go look up the image. How cool is that? And here's where we're going to look up. XLOOKUP, you just specify that column where the images are. We still press F4. Why? I'm not going to copy it. Yeah, sure. Why not? And then what do I want to get? I want to get the titles. So that's down here in K. Press F4. Don't need comma 0 or comma false like VLOOKUP. And there's our title. And if I would choose a different book, the title updates. And let's see, was I smart enough to put F4 here? No, I was not. Let's press F4 to lock down F2. And for the author, now we just need to go one column to the right. So I'm going to rewrite that formula by grabbing the outline and dragging it over to column L. And so you can see that one is written by me. All right, but if we choose another book, written by Oz, written by Ken and Miguel, written by Win, written by me, and written by Mike Gerber. By the way, this is a great book. Mike wrote the world's longest Excel book. He covers everything there: Power Query, Power BI, array formulas. It's just an amazing book. Yeah, so check out that. All right, cool. We got to check the time. Oh, it's time to do our first CPE question. We got to spread these out throughout the whole thing. So again, if you're trying to get a CPE certificate, you need to be able to answer these four these four numbers. I call them alpha, beta, Charlie, and delta using the phonetic alphabet. So the first answer for 96, just remember, write down the number 96. You're going to have to put in the number 96. It's a multiple choice test. So for alpha, the answer is 96. I'll give you the link after the third and fourth numbers. So just write those down and get all those, and you'll get your CPE certificate. All right, cool. Pivot table. This is pretty wild. So here's my data set. Here's, oh shoot, it was zoomed. You couldn't see it. Thanks, Johnny. I have Johnny. By the way, that awesome soundtrack that we played, that was Johnny playing live for us, Johnny Rohrbeck. So thanks, Johnny, for doing that. All right, yeah. So the first CPE answer is 96. 96. So the alpha answer 96. Just write that down, and you'll be good to go. All right, Johnny. Thanks for that. Apple Watch, amazing, amazing. By the way, for any of you on an Apple Watch challenge, don't forget that you need to stand this hour, and I will not be able to stand. I'm going to lose this hour, but this is a great time to stand and walk around for a minute if you need to do so. For all my friends out there in the supernatural world, I think you might have seen that video. For the last 5 months, I've been using Supernatural VR in the headset, and I have a great crew of folks that I work out with every morning. A few of them are here today. I saw Wendy sign in, and we're all on the Apple Watch challenge, which is crazy to try and do that, but it's working. Like I've lost 30 pounds already, and 6 months from now, I will have lost even more. Okay, check out this amazing thing here. Here's my data set. I'm going to create a pivot table from this, and we're going to talk about pivot tables some more. But I am going to use this filter area here. And see, I have these words, maybe, no, and yes. So I want to see all the people that met their goal. So I choose yes, click OK. And look at that. In the filter area, they return the image from that column. I can even do something crazy, like move the image into the pivot table rows. Oh, yeah, that one did not work. Something has gone terribly wrong. Let's go back to this one. So here's my pivot table. And I want to see my pivot table toolbar, which is going to be off the screen. We'll make the screen larger. Pivot table toolbar right there. All right. Yeah. So I'm going to take that image and move the image from the filters into the rows area. Right. And look at that. That's the image appearing in a pivot table. I mean, this is pretty wild, having these images not just float above the screen, but to actually appear. All right, now remember, the thing that really makes this important is adding the alt text for all 3 images here, or all 6 images here, and that's going to be a hassle if you had 100 things that you had to add the images to. So I have this tiny little macro that's in the book. It's just really 3 lines of code for each cell in these pictures. Next to it, I have the alt text. So you just type the alt text in here, and it adds it to the picture. So that way you can add maybe 100 sets of alt text or something like that. All right, there we go. Let's come back and take a look at our agenda. So picture and cells, that one is done. All right. We got our first CPE question already. That's good. We're going to put the next one up at 12:30. This next one, I teased this as saying this is the hidden feature that I think should win the Nobel Prize for the best new Excel feature. And a shout out to not the Excel team in Redmond, but an amazing team in Cambridge, England, that's called Excel Labs. And the Excel Labs people are working on cutting edge things. They put it out for free. Generally, though, it's only going to be in Excel for Windows first. So if you have a Mac, it's not going to work. If you're Excel Online, it's not going to work. It's not going to work on your Commodore 64. Okay, now, so out here on the far right-hand side, let me get you my whole Excel screen. I have this little thing called Excel Labs out here. The Excel Labs, to get that, you're going to go to the add-ins button The add-ins button started its life on the insert tab right about here, like right to the left of recommended charts. There was the add-in store. And just recently in beta, they moved the add-ins from the insert tab where it's been for the longest time, ever since Excel 2007, and put it out here on the far right-hand side of the add-ins of the home tab. So just to the left of analyze data and maybe to the right of sensitivity, if you have that, is the add-ins. You'll just click on add-ins and you'll search for Excel Labs and click add. And next thing you know, you'll have this amazing tool out here that currently has three tools: the advanced formula environment, a new function called Labs.GenerativeAI, and a Python editor. We're not going to get to Python today. Python is exciting in Excel. I've tried to use Python for 10 years, and it's so hard to get it set up, but that's going to be a topic for another day. But let's take a look at this amazing tool that we have there from Excel Labs. And this next example I'm going to give you is, like, I realize no one has this particular problem, but I think we all have a situation where we have a similar problem. Someone comes to us with an Excel question and we say, hey, I could solve this for you, but it requires several steps. Like, first, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. And that third step is going to reuse the first two steps. And then step 4, and then step 5. And then finally, in the sixth column, you have your answer to the formula. I do that all the time, those tiny little subformulas. I have a lot of people send me Excel questions. I'll wake up and get here at 4 in the morning, and there'll be some question that someone sent in, and I'll figure it out in the 6 little steps. But then I feel guilty. I don't want to send them 6 columns back. So you start combining all the little subformulas into the main formula, and then you end up with this main formula that's like 400 characters long, and you're going to send it back to them. By the way, I'm doing all this for free, right? You're going to send it back to them, and they're going to be like, well, we don't understand this. Oh, yeah, right. Okay. So here's the idea. Someone came to me with this crazy data set where they just have month name out here, literally month name, not real dates, and the number of sales, and they want to figure out the sales per workday. And this is a fictional data set from 2028. I always do that in the books. I always post-date them 5 years. That way the books look like they're fresh. And so I came up with the steps here to solve this. And on the next sheet, you'll see that I actually build it out in several steps. So here's the month, here's the sales. And then I use the date value function to get the first of the month, the EO month function to get the end of the month, and then the beautiful network days function. And really, I should have put the holidays in there, but in this example, I skipped it. And then finally, once I know how many work days there were in January 2028, I come up with sales per day. All right, so in this case, it's just 4 little formulas and 2 input cells. All right, well, this is the amazing part. I'm going to select this system of formulas. Is that a good word? System of formulas. And let's get the whole Excel screen. We'll come out here to Excel Labs. And we're going to start with the advanced formula environment. We click open. All right, and there's 3 tabs across the top here: grid, names, and modules. You have to go to modules. And then here's an icon. I'm going to hover and see if it'll tell me what it says. This icon has a grid and an arrow pointing down. Hang on, let me just hover there. Import from grid, right? I don't know how you would ever find that icon, but that icon is a freaking amazing icon, right? So what I have here is I have 2 input cells. I have headings above everything, 3 subformulas in the final formula. And I'm going to click import from grid. And out here on the right-hand side, they say, okay, we see the system of formulas in A4 to F4. We think that A and B are the input cells, and the output cell must be the last cell. I'm like, yep, that's right. And when I click OK, they analyze my spreadsheet. They figure out what I'm doing, and they wrote this amazing new formula that uses the LAMBDA function and the LET function. Was I excited when LAMBDA and LET came out? I was excited. Do I ever use LAMBDA ever again since then? No, because they're so super complicated. I just never go there, right? So it was exciting the day it came out. Well, now all of a sudden, we have a tool that's going to write the LAMBDA for us. Oh, this is beautiful. And so what we do down here in the bottom right-hand side, I'm going to click the Create button. That's going to create a named range. And then I'm going to save it. Let's see, did I miss? I might have missed. It's right behind my camera. The Create button right there. Yep. Okay, and then I am going to save that. And what that did is that gave me in the formulas tab back here under name manager is a new thing called sales per day. This isn't VBA. So if your IT department has macros blocked, this will continue to work. It'll work in Excel online. It'll work on Excel for the Mac. And just check this out. So I come out here and I've just built a brand new function equals sales per day. I mean, Excel already has 520 functions, but now it has 521 on my computer because this is something I have to calculate all the time. It says, what's the month? What's the sales? And I get my answer, right? Think about all those complicated spreadsheets you have where you have to go through and build those tiny little subformulas. Well, now you can encapsulate it all in one easy to understand formula, and people can come back and figure out what the calculation is and how it all works, right? So it's not buried in VBA. It is just a beautiful, beautiful thing there. All right, let's cross that one out. That's Control 5, by the way. Control 5 is strike through. All right, let's put up our next question for fun here. And I always talk about pivot tables in every single seminar that I do. So just down in the chat, question is, how often do you use pivot tables? And the choices: A, all the time. I love pivot tables. That would be my answer. B, a few times a month. C is one of these, my coworkers keep sending me pivot tables, but I'm not comfortable creating them. So I know they exist, but I'm not real comfortable with them. And then D, what are you talking about? What's a pivot table? So just go ahead and put that over there in the chat. We're going to talk about a couple of new pivot table improvements. It's great to see that the Excel team is giving us pivot table improvements. Look at that. Look at all those A's and some B's. All those A's. You are my people. Thank you for showing up today. That's it. I love pivot tables too. All right. I'm so excited to look over here and see all these A's a few times a month. All right. Okay. Pivot table improvements. Let's open this one. In case I didn't see anyone say D, so it sounds like you're all sort of familiar with pivot tables. Hey, Michelle from Cleveland. How's it going, Michelle? Okay. Here's the basics of a pivot table. It allows us to create a summary report very, very quickly. So what I have here is I have a data set with region, product, date, sector, customer, quantity, revenue, cost of goods sold, and profit. Profit is just off the screen. I see that. I guess I can make customer a little bit smaller. Yeah, there we are. And our goal, let's say, is to create a report showing total revenue by region and product. Total revenue by region and product. And we can create that report in 6 clicks. All right. First click is the Insert tab. Second click is Pivot Table. In this spot right here, my big old head's in the way. They detect the edge of the data, A1 to I564. You should always check that. They offer to go to a new worksheet. And I'll tell you, in real life, I click existing worksheet and put it out here in K3 or K4. But today, we're just going to let it go to a new worksheet. Why? Because I promised you 6 clicks, and it would take me 8 clicks to hit those. All right. Now, I'm going to have to go back to the full Excel so you can see the task pane out on the right-hand side. Out here on the right-hand side is a list of like what happened. Hang on, what just happened? We're in this completely blank. I think this is the most confusing thing for people who are new to pivot tables. We have this completely blank sheet. Our data is still there. It's still back here on the data tab, right there. So all they did was insert a new sheet, and out on the right-hand side gave us this great list of fields, and down here 4 drop zones: rows, columns, values. And here's how you think about it. Rows, ignore the icons. The icons are wrong. The icons have been wrong since Excel 2007, at least in my opinion. The rows are for the items that you want down the left-hand side. So if we just check mark region, it goes to the rows area. And you see over here, we get a list of all the regions going down the left-hand side. If we check mark revenue, because it's numeric, it's going to go to the values area. And we start out with a sum of revenue. And then across the top, we want to put products. So I'm going to drag that and drop it in columns like that. All right. So insert, pivot table. Okay. 3 clicks, check mark region, check mark revenue, drag product to the right spot. It frustrates me that these always appear in general, and to put a single comma in here, right click, number format, that's 2 clicks, choose number, choose 1000 separator, 0 decimal places, click OK, right? So 6 clicks to get the pivot table, 7 clicks to add the stupid comma. But that's the way it is. Print this out, give it to your manager. Your manager comes back to you with one of these. That's not what I wanted. I wanted products down the side and regions across the top. And in the old days, you would be starting over. Back in the old days, that's with @ dsums. Listen to me, it sounds like I'm in Lotus, right? @ dsums. Watch how easy this is to do this now with a pivot table. We're just going to come here and take the product field that's in columns and drag it down to the rows field. Did I tell you it was 3 steps? It's 3 simple steps. Step number 1, take the product field from columns, drop it in rows. All right, good. Step number 2, take the region field from rows and drop it in columns. And then step number 3, do something else for 9.5 minutes to make it look like it was actually hard. I mean, that action, we just did the pivot. And here I'll even take customer. Let's put product and then customer in. So now you see that we have products in column A, customers in column B. It's just amazing how quickly you can change the report. I can take product out and put sector in, and it's going to go to the wrong spot, but I can just drag sector up above customer. And all of a sudden, I'm getting all these different reports. Super easy to do, thanks to a pivot table. All right, now, what's new about this? First thing, some of you who are pivot table pros, I hope, are a little bit jealous of the fact that I have sector in column A and customer in column B, because ever since Excel 2007, they made this horrible design decision to show things in compact form where we don't have real headings. We have headings like row labels and column labels, and they jam everything into column A with different levels of indent. When this happened, I went to the guy who did it, and I said, people aren't going to like this. And he had spent 2 years of his life creating this, and he didn't like my attitude. He said I was ungrateful. I suppose I was ungrateful, but thankfully he left Microsoft. And I was nicer to the next guy. I went and I said, we really should have a way that for the people who don't like compact layout, they should be able to say that all future pivot tables should start in tabular form just to get the data back into 2 columns. And by the way, that they should always say, what's this other one here? It starts out with do not repeat item labels. So you get that ugly version. I would always come in and say, repeat all item labels. Just give me a checkbox somewhere that says, those are the 2 things that I want. Well, that guy number 2, he didn't do it either. Guy number 3 still didn't do it. Guy number 5 saw me coming. This is my 6th year asking for this feature. He's like, you ask for this every year. We don't think anyone actually cares. You're the only person that ever talks to us about this. I'm like, well, wait a second. I'm doing 35 seminars a year. I'm in front of 3,500 people. I'm bringing you the opinions of 3,500 people. And, it's 10%. 10% of the room doesn't like compact layout. And that was a gentle lie. It was like 50% of the room didn't like compact layout. And he said, all right, go prove it to us. And he sent me out to the help where the feedback, which used to lead to user voice, today leads to some other feedback site. And you could write up an idea and other people would vote for your idea. It's like, go get me 20 votes. And I laughed. I'm like, I'm Mr. Excel. I'm going to be back with 20 votes tomorrow. He's like, well, we're not going to do it at 20 votes. But I'll tell you, 225 votes? Yeah, they did it. By the way, let's just put up the second CPE question. We got to be cognizant of that. So for the second CPE question, the number for the beta, alpha and beta, 82. Just write that number down, 82. We'll give you the link at the end to get your CPE hour. So 82 is this hour's question. All right. So how do we get sector and communications in 2 different columns from the get-go? That is a feature under file and then options, file and then options. And if you have this category called data, the data category, then that means that you have the feature. Let's see if I can bring this a little bit larger. Yeah, there we are. If you have data, this very top item says make changes to the default layout of pivot tables. And that button right there, edit default layout, is where you can say that all future pivot tables should start in tabular form, always repeat all item labels. I even tried this one, which is perpetually grayed out. It wasn't grayed out here, but checking it doesn't do anything still. You can even go into pivot table options. Like they made this feature so much better than what I asked for. For empty cells, show 0. I would always change that, and now it's just automatic. I have friends who uncheck autofit column width, so the column widths aren't changing. And I even have friends who love the classic pivot table layout where you can drag the fields right into the report. You can turn all of that back on thanks to pivot table defaults. All right, so that's one feature we have. Here's the other feature we have. I'm going to take region and sector and customer out and put daily dates down. And this next feature is great for the people who have a fiscal year ending December 31st. If you're anyone else, retail, January 31st, government, what is it, June 30th or is it September 30th? I know there's all kinds of fiscal years. And if that's you, sorry, Microsoft just doesn't care about you. Right. So This is for the people whose fiscal year ends on December 31st. We have this amazing ability here to come into, choose the first date field, go to group field, and we can roll this daily data up to, let's say, months and years, or quarters and years, or months, quarters, and years. Click OK. Now, this is a really good report. And unfortunately, the thing I want to show you is far out on the right-hand side here. So we have to make the screen a little bit smaller. I'm going to narrate for you. What we have is, it used to be when we grouped the data, the month field became the date field. So date was now hidden in months, and they added one new field for us called years. Well, now they keep the date field where it is. I really appreciate that, because I can add the daily dates back in if I want to, like this. All right. And then the fact that they now show me that this months field came from the date field and years came from the date field. It wasn't that long ago that I had a data set with a ship date and an order date, and I needed to compare those two. And when I grouped them both up to months and years, I couldn't tell which was which. One was called months and one was called months two. It was a horrible name. So this is a much better way to go. And by the way, just, this isn't new, but this is the payoff here. Take that year field and drag it across right now. Oh, Michelle, can you imagine this report? Last year's data, this year's data. Out here, I don't even want the grand total. Right click and remove grand total. And we're going to put a percentage change out here. I'm cheating. I'm putting it outside of the pivot table. I know there's a way to get it inside the pivot table, but this is so much easier. So equals C5 divided by B5 minus 1. So equals C5. I can already see it out of the corner of my eye. They're doing this to me. This bug started back in Excel 2002. I guess it's not a bug anymore now. It's been 21 years. I guess it's going to be there forever. Anytime you build a formula outside of the pivot table that points inside, you get that horrible get pivot data. And 99% of the time, people say, just make it go away. I don't want get pivot data. My quick and dirty answer is just build the formula equals C5 divided by B5 minus 1. Don't use the mouse or the arrow keys, and you get a formula that will actually copy down. All right. Let's come back here. Pivot table improvements. All right, spin the wheel for a mystery topic. This is great. This is just walking on the edge here, seeing if I can come up with something. Thanks to Rob Collie, who created this wheel of random topics. I have a list of A through P here, so I guess that's 16 items, and we're going to spin the wheel and see what item comes up. E. Oh, look, Rob, you're killing me. D. All right, D. %of function. All right, that's on page 83 in the book. Let's go see if we can find that. Of course, every topic in the book has a great Excel file. Percent of. There we are. All right, the percentage of. Let's do it right here. Okay, so we have category, product, sales, and then for each item, I want to show the sales as a percentage of the total. Sales as a percentage of the total. And normally, I tell you what, we're just going to get rid of some of this data so it all fits in the zoomed in version. It's fake data, it doesn't really matter. So to get at the percentage of total, this is a great test of people's Excel skills. First, they put in the alt equals down here. They get the 61, 30, 21, and then equal this row divided by the total row. We press the F4 key, right? So you have to know how to put the auto sum in at the bottom. You have to know the F4 key. Format that as a percentage, double click to copy it down, and you get the percentage of total. But right now, brand new in beta, is an awesome new function that means that we don't have to do hardly any of that. You don't have to put the total at the bottom. You just say equal percent of, and the data subset is that 1275, and the data all. I'm going to have to press F4 there to lock that down. I guess you still have to do the F4 to make it work. And we get 2.1%. Double click to copy that down. All right, so there you go. The new percent of function coming to the semi-annual channel probably in January, I'm going to guess. And it's funny, they actually added this in for group by and pivot by, which we're going to get to. All right. Copilot in Excel. You know what? We should put our third CPE question up here. CPE number. All right. So for Charlie, it's the number 24. So technically at this point, if you've got those first three numbers, you can come out to this website. We'll put that in the chat. MrEx.cl/. CPE 0320 because today is March 20th and we're in the United States where we put the month first. Just put in the 3 of the 4 numbers, give me your name, and we'll send you the CPE certificate. So 24 is our Charlie. All right. Let's talk about Copilot in Excel. This is Microsoft is so excited about all of this artificial intelligence. And nope, sorry. Where are we? Edge, Microsoft Edge, where are you? Right over here. Okay, so check this out. You'll never see me doing this, running Excel online, but I'm running Excel online because the Copilot, they give us a sandbox and they say that they're going to roll it out, but they gave us a sandbox. And so all of my Copilot tests have been here in Excel Online. This Copilot icon on the far right-hand side of the Home tab to the right of the add-ins. And it says that it can do 4 things for us. It can add formula columns. It can highlight, which really just means conditional formatting. It does a really good job with that. Sort and filter, and analyze, right? And I'm pretty happy with the add formula. So we have revenue, cost of goods sold, and profit. And I'm going to ask them to calculate gross profit percent. Calculate gross profit percent. I wonder if they will know what I'm talking about. So we click in here, calculate gross profit percent. I press the send button and it comes back with this working on it, like they're actually thinking about it, trying to understand your data. We actually pushed back to Microsoft. It's like, seriously, are you really thinking about it? Or, like, why is it taking this long? And I don't think they had a good answer for us. I hate when Chat-GPT types the answer back like there's someone typing on the other side. It's just insane. All right, this is taking far too long. If this was a pre-recorded webinar, I would clip this 30 seconds out. Da, da, da. Johnny, we should have some live jazz music here. All right. Oh, this is awesome. Okay, and this is actually interesting that they came up with this formula. The formula that they're suggesting is profit divided by revenue. And kudos to Microsoft because that answer is better than the answer I got 6 weeks ago. When I tried it 6 weeks ago, they gave me 1 minus cost of goods sold divided by revenue, which is the same answer, of course, but it's a longer formula. They give me a little item here to explain the formula. Shows me what it's doing. Oh, yeah, that's not bad. And then inserts a column. Now look at this preview. I freaked out at the preview. First off, they're giving me 2 decimal places and they're left justifying numbers. That's a crime. But luckily, when we insert the column, they right justify the numbers. So they just wanted to freak us out at that point. All right, let's try this harder one. Calculate a 2% bonus for revenue over 15,000 and gross profit percent in the top 20%. And your data has to be in a table right now. And we'll paste that in and click send. I hope they give us this one. And that sentence is a really interesting sentence. I hope they give us this one because that means that every time you ask this question, you may or may not get the same answer. And that's super unreliable to me. Like every time I put an auto sum in, I know I'm going to get the same answer if it's at the bottom of a column of numbers. But Copilot drives me nuts. They will come up with different answers every time. This is a really impressive formula that they came up with here because it's using percentile.inc. Like that's a formula that I actually would have to puzzle over for a while. And they did it much faster than I did. All right. So kudos to Copilot. It's going to get better. There's a lot of questions we can ask that it says, oh, that's too complicated for me right now. Right. So I don't know. Will they get better? Yeah, I think they will. The other thing that we've had in Excel that just works amazingly well is analyze data. This feature is actually in its second revolution, and it's what Copilot had given us. The analyze data in Copilot is actually this analyze data that we have here. Let's just get, let's get something with try the analyze data here real quick. All right, so same data set that we created the pivot table from, but under analyze data, it analyzes this data looking for like 11 different kinds of trends. And I call this the mature artificial intelligence. They never call this artificial intelligence, but that's what it is. It's machine learning. And they look at the data and they find some interesting things over here. Like this one at the bottom, profit has 6 outliers. Like that's pretty crazy. I didn't know that about this data. And that pivot table that they could create, or that pivot chart that they could create, I have no idea how I would create that pivot chart. Like highlighting those outliers, that's pretty good. That's something that I wouldn't know how to do. And it comes up with it. And so it came up with 4 insights there. And at the bottom is show all 36 results. There's some interesting things. There's some things that aren't interesting at all. Like this one here. I make fun of this one every single time. They have determined that it appears that if the quantity goes up, if the quantity in that order is higher, it looks like you're making more money. I'm like, seriously? Like this is the proof that a human's not doing this, because a human would never suggest something that's silly. And at first, I was always going through and saying, is this helpful? No. But Microsoft is very concerned about privacy, and they realized they couldn't react to that signal without seeing the data, so they don't react to the signal. So I stopped clicking yes or no there. All right, that was version 1. Version 2, and for those of you who use Power BI, you will recognize this. This is a Power BI feature that they brought back to Excel. I can create a pivot table just by typing a sentence. I want to say the top 3 customers, let's type it right, by, what's it called, revenue, for each channel, for each sector. Top 3 customers by revenue for each sector. Press enter, and look at that. They figured out what I wanted, and they insert a pivot table. This is a pretty hard pivot table to create with the top 3 ranking. Like, I know this is buried somewhere in there, and I certainly have covered in my book, Pivot Table Data Crunching, but that's pretty impressive right there. So, this feature, the analyze data, is baked in. There's nothing hard about it. It's easy and it's super reliable, and I'm a big fan of that. Hey, Johnny, let's put up the next question over in the chat. And this is a question that really drives me crazy. And the question is artificial intelligence going to eliminate your job? A, no way. I'm untouchable. B, it's going to change my job, but there's still a use for me. C, yeah, I'm going to be like the typewriter salesman soon. So where do you think you stand? And it's worrisome for me because, like, 15 years, I've been creating Excel videos. I've been creating Excel articles. Some company in Europe created 1,500 articles in a week and fooled Google. Google started sending 30% of our traffic to them. And then people were just going to Chat-GPT instead of coming, to our site. So, that was worrisome to me. So, yeah, a lot of B's there. I think B is probably the best answer. And an untouchable. That's awesome. I wish that I could say that I was untouchable. All right. Sneak peek. This is something that I really hope to have live today, but I didn't. But on this whole concept of artificial intelligence, the first thing I did when Chat-GPT became a thing is I said, let's go take all of our knowledge and create our own Chat-GPT. And I found a company who would do that, and they wanted $1 million, which we don't have that. So I was just like, this is never going to work. But things are moving so fast. They're moving so fast. So right now, I found a company, and I have given them every word that I've said in 17 years of YouTube. Every single word that I've said. And they've built a Bill twin. This is absolutely amazing. So it knows every single word that I've said in every single YouTube video. Even I will know, I did that video 5 years ago. What was it? Like, there's a feature in pivot tables called show, report, filter, pages. I know I've covered it on the channel, but where and what's it called? I don't know. Right. And so this thing will take that question or that phrase. I'm delighted you're interested in show, report, filter, page features for my podcast. It tells you what it does. Generate a separate worksheet for each item in your pivot tables filter field, which can be incredibly useful. And then it says, oh yeah, it was in episode 2289. It was in, there's 3 episodes where I've talked about it. It tells me the answer and then gives me the link to the episode in case I want it. And I am super pumped about this because I know it's a human that generated the information, not just any human, me generated this information. Here we are. So, sorry, I should have shown you that. So I asked the question, show, report, filter, pages, and it gave me this answer. I'm delighted you're interested. tells it where it was, which episodes, and how it was discussed in each of those episodes. And the company that did this, I'm like, this is amazing. Let's take my books, 68 books. Let's take those books and add the book knowledge in. They're like, well, we can't really read the images yet. And so it's going to take us more time for that. But we have this coming soon, and I will be announcing that pretty soon. So the new Bill-GPT, it's my attempt to say, all right, artificial intelligence might kind of be kicking my butt right now, but let me try and fight back with a better GPT that's actually been trained on someone who is human, and it's just using things that hopefully should work. Okay, good. We have 8 minutes left, and of course we're allowed to run over, I guess. Let's put up the fourth CPE question, and that one I don't have to unzoom. You can see it right there. The fourth CPE number is 84, and again. John, if you could put this over in chat, mrx.cl/CPE0320. Just give me 3 of those 4 numbers that I gave you so I know that you were paying attention. And this, of course, is for people who are watching us live. It's funny, the company, the licensing bureaus that give me the right to give out CPE questions have one set of rules for live events like this event and a completely different set for events that are pre-recorded. And I haven't gone through all the steps for the pre-recorded. So hopefully you're watching this live. You can get those CPE, and I'll send you that certificate out. All right, good. Let's just take a quick look here. And hey, shout out to some of my friends in the supernatural community. This is actually one that the Airtable. We talk about the Airtable has all of those great records of every single workout available, every single song. And I downloaded that data, and I wanted to look for all the things in the 80s. Shout out to my crew on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's rocking the 80s. So I was looking for songs that fell in the 80s. And it's frustrating that nothing in the Airtable gives you the year that something was published. And I said, okay, so this is something, it's not very important. Like if it says a song was from the 80s and it's really from the 70s, no one's gonna scream or anything like that. But what I did is I downloaded the data from the Airtable, and here we are. So over in column A, I have the song artist. And in column B, figure out what year it was recorded, just so I could go find the things that were from the 80s. Rule number 1, not very important. Doesn't have to be that accurate. Rule number 2, it's something that's not, like I would never go Google, there's 3,245 songs. I'm never going to go Google this, right? I'm just not going to do it. But, so I was able to concatenate together a question. In what year did this artist in A2 originally record the song? And I had put those extra quotation marks in there to make it work. Let's get that bigger. And so in what year did that artist record the song? And just double click to copy that down. And then check this out. Another thing from our Excel Labs folks in Cambridge is this thing called Labs.GenerativeAI. And out here, we're going to say equal Labs.GenerativeAI and pass it the question, close paren, and it starts out there with a busy, and then it comes back in 1936, right? And then here, to get the last bit, it was equal right of that, comma 5, and then maybe the left of that, comma 4 to get rid of the period. It was very reliable the way that it brought it back. So there's my answer, 1936 plus 0. All right, double click to copy this down. Now, the day that I did this, 3,200 songs, it took hours to go get it. But I ran to lunch, I ran to Target, I came back, and next thing I know, I have answers to all of these unimportant questions, right? So, Chat-GPT loves to hallucinate, but it really seemed to work. Okay, good. Pivot table on a map, group by and pivot by. A couple of great items here. Pivot table on a map. This is one that I just love. It came to us between Excel 2013 and Excel 2016, thanks to Tableau. What do you mean thanks to Tableau? Tableau put this in their product, and Microsoft rushed to give us the equivalent item. So I have data here, right here, this data, lots of data that I downloaded from in my case, the county website, 2,439 rows. This has street address, city, state, zip. That's my geography here. We're going to put data on a map. And I actually have a second worksheet here for each of these parcel IDs. I have the date of the sale and the sale amount, dollars per square foot, and a whole bunch of other things like that. Right. So I have these two data sets, and I want to be able to picture these. And so back here on the insert tab, not the map charts, that's completely different. We have this great feature here called 3D map. Let's make it a little bit larger so you can see it right here. This feature called 3D map. And it allows us to create a pivot table on a map. It always takes a good 20 seconds to load. Don't panic, it's coming. There we are. Okay. All right. And so over here on the right-hand side is my pivot table fields list, essentially. In this case, I am doing the summary by, right here under homes, doing the summary by street address. You could do it by zip code, by city, anything that you have your customer data in. The height of the column is the amount of the sale. The color of the column is which neighborhood. So there's the purple neighborhood, the yellow neighborhood. And then one of the most important things is the sale date is down here in the time slider. When you have a time slider, that allows you to take this scrubber at the bottom and go back to any point in time. And we're watching the time icon up here in the top left. And actually, let's first just come back here to a nice simple theme, a white theme, so we can kind of picture things a little bit better. So as we were moving from Ohio, coming down from Akron and looking for a place here in Merritt Island, we kind of knew that we wanted to be somewhere between State Route 520 and State Route 528. So I downloaded all of these houses. And it gave me a great view of the history of this area, because the very first house sale was in 1961. You know what? Let's get rid of the neighborhood coloring. I wonder if I can turn that off. Yeah, there we are. The very first house was in 1961. I know the data pretty well. I'm going to zoom in here. So over here in the green neighborhood, these first three houses built back in the Needle Boulevard area. And I'm going to watch these houses get built. Now that we start to get some houses in the purple area. All right, and we're up to 1968. So the Apollo era is rocking and rolling. The rockets are launched right here. That's Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Back then, Air Force Station, or Cape Kennedy, as they called it, right? So rocket launches, all the people building the rockets are living here in Merritt Island or Titusville or something like that. So now we have the green neighborhood, the purple neighborhood, and the yellow neighborhood. And the very first houses in this blue neighborhood in 1968. So I can watch these neighborhoods build out over time. I can go forward to the future, right? And it's funny, Mrs. Excel is living and breathing on Zillow. I mean, she spent so much time on Zillow. She knew every house that was for sale in all these neighborhoods. And, we would go look at houses, and when you would pull up in front of a house, and from the street, she could just look at the house and say, oh, this is Catalina Isles Model C, because that window's there and that window's there. She like knew it from the street. But the thing that impressed me about all these houses back here is they were built in the 60s. And as we would walk in, Mary Ellen would say, hey, look, you're going to tear down this wall and this wall. I could do VLOOKUP with my eyes closed, but I'm horrible with a hammer, right? Like, I'm not tearing down any walls. And so I became very enamored with this little section up here, this little section, which I affectionately call the triangle. All right, the triangle, these houses were not there in 1984. These houses are all newer. It was the last neighborhood to be built. Okay, now just remember, the height of the column tells you the price of the house. And you can kind of see, like, there's a couple of big houses here, but mostly, they're just common houses. And then, holy smokes, never mind. Yeah, we'll go back down here to the houses from the 60s and pay someone to take those walls out. So like, this became our neighborhood that we focused on. We were really looking for houses here. And when we get up to the 2000s, there's this insane run up, right, until 2008. And then in 2008, the housing market crashes, and all these people are essentially underwater. They paid way too much for their houses. But not all of these people. You can spot little things like this house right here, 1040 North Montego Bay Drive. At that time, that had to be the widow of an Apollo engineer who's been there since the beginning, paid $22,000 for the house when her neighbors are at $410,000 for the house. Like, there are people who have been here since the beginning, and maybe they haven't done any renovation, but there's places to, like, they're going to be moving to a smaller apartment soon or something. There's opportunities, and this gave us an amazing way to analyze that. This is all Excel. Isn't this crazy? How cool this is to be able to take a look at this data in Excel and use it for something kind of things that you wouldn't really consider to be Excel-like. So pivot table on a map, I have all kinds of great examples about that. All right, last topic of the day. Group by and pivot by. I'm a huge fan of pivot tables. And hang on. They said that they were going to come out with a formula that lets us do a pivot table with a formula, and that's the pivot by function. But the same day the pivot by came out, they came out with group by. And I have to tell you, I am just a massive fan of group by. I am using group by all the time. So group by, what are the row fields? What are the values you want to add up, and what function? How do you want to show the headers? How many sets of totals? How do you want to sort it? And should we filter it on the way in? So let's just do a simple little example. Actually, here, I already have it built. Let's just let it go. So we have category, product, sales, and cost. And so I say the row fields are the categories in column A. What do I want to add up? That's the sales and cost in C and D. What function to use? Count. Why do I want to do count? That seems strange. Let's do sum. Sum, count, average, all the things you would expect. Actually, you can write any lambda function there, but there's like 17 built in. And then for field headers, this is a funny choice. It's yes, show me the field headers and include them. There's one that says calculate the field headers, but don't include them. I don't quite get that. All right, so for each of the categories, I can see the sales and cost. All right, now let's expand this a little bit. Let's change the row fields to be two things, both category and product. So A and B, completely different report now. We see category, product, sales, and cost. I can control the sort order. I can control if I want totals. Like right now, there's a total at the bottom, yeah, right there. But if I would come into the totals, where's it? Total depth. I want grand totals, and subtotals. So let's put a 2 in there. Check that out. At fruit, at the bottom of fruit, they give me a total for fruit, total for herbs. And then I can even go in and so it's getting a little bit bigger here. I can say, how do I want to sort that? So maybe I want to sort it based on sales. So that's column 3. And that's going to sort smallest to largest. So within vegetables is the smallest category. And then herbs, we're going to sort smallest to largest. And within the category, the smallest vegetable. So cabbage followed by broccoli. But if we wanted to go the other way, and this is shout out to Charles Williams, an Excel MVP in England who invented this. If you want to do descending based on sales, just make it be negative. Put a negative in front of the 3. And now we get the largest category, which is fruit at the top. And within that, going high to low and so on, right? This group by function, brand new. It's still in beta, but I can't wait till this rolls out to the Microsoft 365 community. This is the one I use all the time. Pivot by is the same basic thing with a few extra fields, like what fields you want going across the columns, what column total depth and column sort order. But for me, just using group by is the one that I am using all the time. All right. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for coming and spending this time with me. My goal, I think we're going to try and do one of these a month. I am super excited about the new the Build Twin, where you can ask and find an item there. Check out the new book, Mr. Excel 2024. Watch for exciting announcements. If you need CPE credits, follow that link and I will send you a CPE certificate. Give me a couple of days to do that. By the way, that CPE certificate is coming from a Bill at Microsoft account that I never use. So if you ever reply to that, it just goes into an email box that if you need to find me, come to my YouTube channel and leave a comment down below. That's the best way to get to me. Thanks to Johnny for putting all this great technology together. Johnny was able to produce this remotely and taught me how to use the Stream Deck and all of that great stuff. I've been doing Excel webinars, but always for other companies. And it's like, let's find a way just to do this for anyone. And so, yeah, I appreciate the people that showed up today. I love doing these seminars. I love Excel. I love Excel features. I can't wait to go back and study the chat and see what kind of great stuff is in there. All right. So thanks very much. Watch our newsletter for exciting new things. As soon as I get that Bill-GPT working, we'll let you know all about that. All right. Very good. Thanks, everyone.